Hello and welcome back to the channel for another Power of the Doctor themed video. So the most audacious, the most wild, the most wacky rumour about the Power of the Doctor is of course that David Tennant is going to appear at the end of the story as part of the regeneration scene. And I've given my thoughts on that rumour in a previous video this week, so feel free to go and check that out if you haven't already. But that aside, there have also been some wild rumours going round about classic Doctor cameos and more companion appearances and cameos beyond Tegan and Ace. And so with just a couple of days to go now until the Power of the Doctor, today I'm going to turn my attention to those rumours, sort of weigh them up and see what I think of them, whether I think they're likely or not, and discuss how cameos like these, could work if there is indeed any truth to this. So how did the rumours of classic Doctors appearing in the Centenary special begin, and which Doctors were mentioned? Well, basically, it all started just over a year ago, in October 2021, when a photo surfaced online showing Sylvester McCoy, Colin Baker, and David Bradley, so the 7th Doctor, the 6th Doctor, and the recast 1st Doctor, respectively, sat round a table in a B&B or guest house or whatever in Penarth, which is a town that sort of borders onto Cardiff. Incidentally, they filmed loads of stuff in Penarth for Doctor Who and its spin-offs in the past. Perhaps most iconically, one of its houses became 13 Bannerman Road in the Sarah Jane Adventures. And so basically fandom went into meltdown when this photo surfaced and people were sort of saying, what are they doing there? What are they doing in the vicinity of Cardiff? And the Power of the Doctor had actually been filming around that time as well. So basically loads of people put two and two together and made five and decided, they must be in the story somehow. They must be cameoing, they must be appearing in some form or another. But then some people did a bit more digging and found a tweet from a guy called Rick who had been filming a Doctor Who documentary in Wales that same day. And so these rumours were sort of quite quickly disputed and put to bed. But that hasn't stopped people from going back to them in the months since, in the whole year since indeed, and sort of saying, hang on, could there be some truth in this? Could something else have been going on? Or, even if they were filming a documentary, perhaps they were filming some stuff down there, in Rothlock in the studios at the same time. And so very much like the David Tennant rumour, which I've previously discussed on the channel, like I say, this is one which I think people have got quite carried away with, and, there's the most simple explanation is there for all to see. I mean, sure, this documentary is still yet to transpire, presumably it'll be something for the 60th anniversary next year, and I guess there's always the chance that it could have just been a cover story, but I'm not really sure I believe that myself. But there is of course still the possibility, like I say, that this wasn't the only thing they were filming at this time in this area. I mean, perhaps this documentary was sort of like an offshoot of these presumed cameos in the Centenary special. Perhaps they were already there doing the filming for that episode, and they sort of then scheduled the documentary dates and locations to fit in, around that. I mean, it is a stretch, ultimately, and again, it's not really something that I personally believe. I mean, would I like to see this happen? Would I like to see Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy in particular, come back to their roles or different roles or whatever it would be after so many years away? Well, yes, of course, I'd love to see that. I mean, there would be questions about how it would work and, like I say, would they be able to just reprise their roles as their respective Doctors, or would they have to play different parts? Both approaches could have their pros and cons, their downsides and their merits. I mean, like with the David Tennant thing, my heart sort of says, if there's a way of bringing them back and doing it and making it work, then, just go for it, to hell with the logic or whatever, just have them there, have Sylvester there with his grey hair and his wrinkles and everything in that same outfit and, pretend he is the same 7th Doctor that he was like 30, 40 years ago. But then you do have to think about the logistical side and, whether it would be too much of a suspension of disbelief, to have Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy, or indeed other Doctors as well, back in those roles, back in those outfits, looking quite different in some cases, and in every case, quite a bit older. I don't know, I've sort of got mixed feelings on how that could work, really. I mean, one other thing to throw into this debate is, of course, the fact that Ace and Tegan are coming back, and we didn't know that when this photo first surfaced online. And obviously, I think, that suspension of disbelief is different for a returning companion versus a returning Doctor, because for a returning companion, you can just say they look older because they've been on Earth or this planet or whatever for all these years, that they've grown old in real time. Whereas for a returning Doctor, you can't really do that without stretching some logic. I mean, sure, Stephen Moffat sort of explained it away and got away with it with Peter Davison in Time Crash and David Bradley in Twice Upon a Time by saying there were some weird time distortions going on, and that was why these Doctors looked different to how they did, back in the day. I think ultimately, I could see them bending the logic and making this work somehow, particularly because this is the BBC Centenary special, and it's probably going to be the biggest sort of celebration of the show's past and the show overall, since the Day of the Doctor, the 50th anniversary special back in 2013. So I can sort of see them doing it, but I wouldn't get your hopes up for it. I think that's the thing to remember with this, like with the David Tennant thing, like with any rumour, there's no guarantee to any of this, just because people have been talking about it, it doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen. I mean, we've also had rumours about other classic companions returning, either cameoing or having bigger roles or just whatever. And one of the names that seems to come up in suggestions time and time again is William Russell, who of course played Ian Chesterton, one of the very first companions in Doctor Who is now in his 90s, and to be honest, he's been rumoured to be appearing in the show for many years. He was rumoured to be appearing in Day of the Doctor. I think he was rumoured to be appearing in Class as well, or sort of people are at least wanting him to appear in that show. I mean, in terms of other companions that you could have, and it makes sense, with these characters still being around and still being on Earth, there's Jo Grant, and I mean, that's probably really about it, because obviously, we've got Tegan, we've got Ace, Nyssa has gone off into space, presumably somewhere. The same can be said of Perry, if that recent Blu-ray trailer is anything to go by. I mean, there was a comment made by Janet Fielding in her BBC Press interview for this story about these classic companions that are still on Earth, sort of teaming up and coming together and investigating stuff in The Power of the Doctor. It is quite a vague comment, it could sort of be read as implying that there are more companions involved, or if you're being cynical, you could just say, well, clearly she's just referring to Ace and Tegan here, and maybe Graham and Ryan too at a push. I think ultimately, it is one of those things where I'd advise people to not get their hopes up. I mean, yes, okay, we have been told that there are further surprises and further Easter eggs and further kisses to the past in The Power of the Doctor. And it's completely possible that classic Doctor and companion cameos are what those comments are referring to. But personally, I'm not going to go into the episode expecting that. I think it'll be a bonus if it does happen. At the end of the day, this could be a load of rubbish that fans have invented for themselves. Or there could be some truth in it somewhere. Maybe classic Doctors and companions won't appear, but will get sort of name dropped or referenced. I mean, there was that article going around in the press not too long ago about the 13th Doctor donning a load of her predecessors' outfits in this story. And obviously we've sort of already seen that with the orange spacesuits, but maybe there could be more. Maybe she wears a stick of celery, or a multicoloured coat, or a question mark jumper. That sort of fan service wouldn't surprise me, and it could work if it was done in the right way. Or, of course, the rumours could mean what they say on the tin, and we could literally be guessing, the 1st and 6th and 7th Doctors, and possibly other ones as well, back in The Power of the Doctor. At the moment, everything is still to play for, and this episode will either go down in history as the episode, which brought the 1st and 6th and 7th Doctors back to us, or as the episode where fans deceived themselves into thinking so. What are your thoughts on this? What do you think? Would you like to see Sylvester McCoy, Colin Baker, David Bradley, William Russell, possibly other Doctors and companions as well, back on our screens? Or do you have reservations about how that sort of stuff could work? Maybe too much time has passed for it to be viable? Whatever your thoughts, please make them known down in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new for more stuff like this in the future. And if you'd like to support the channel on Patreon, you can find the link to my Patreon page in the video description. But otherwise, until the next one, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.